Welcome. I'll be covering some of my favorite moments and running commentary from Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 9. The Crimson Arboretum sounds gorgeous. I'm definitely adding that to my itinerary if I ever end up in the Star Trek universe. Does anyone else have travel plans for that? I know I do. It reminded me a little bit of that scene from Hero with all those red leaves falling during that sword fight. Dun dun, dun dun, dun dun. Love that movie. Deanna's panic was more frightening than anything they could have showed us at first, especially after that ominous door build-up sequence. I'm glad they showed us her reaction before the Borg. And what a twist to have the whole syndrome be a misdiagnosis and this is an organic Borg thing. Poor Picard, though, he did not need more guilt from that. The look he gave after realizing was just heartbreaking. And I totally get why Jack started panicking. I mean, who wouldn't? How much of me is me? I really felt for him in this scene. Although I was a little bit confused because I thought most of the Borg issue was taken care of last season, so I guess this is just a different queen. And now I'm wondering in the final episode, are they going to bring the two Borg storylines together in some way? Or is each season of Picard kind of more standalone? Maybe they'll leave it up to the fanfic. Jack controlling those two security officers, then referencing futility? I'm still on his side, but that was a bit worrying. I honestly admire him for going after the Borg Queen like that. He just found out the Borg had almost been controlling his life in a way. And then the Federation is trying to do the same thing and basically lock him away and experiment on him. I mean, who wouldn't run? And if you're gonna run, you might as well go do something productive, right? So it makes sense that he'd go after her. And then he ended up assimilated anyway. I still think he's going to be able to fight back against it. We'll see. I think we're going to get him back at the end of next episode. This was such a beautiful moment between Data and Picard. I love that they included it. So many small interactions that mean so much. A transwarp conduit. Oh, it's been a while since we saw one of those. Gorgeous visuals here. And then as a transmitter, Jack is kind of like a queen. Or maybe like a duke. I don't know. He's definitely above the average drone, which makes him more powerful, but also could give him an edge to fight the collective. And what I want to know is, why didn't the Borg simply assimilate the changelings? Why are they working together? I want to know more about that. Or maybe they kind of were assimilated in the way that a changeling could be. Because when she chopped her hand off, I don't know. I'm sure they'll explain things more, hopefully, before the end. Shaw continued with his hilarious commentary, which I was so here for. He's really the Uncle Owen of this show. Like you trained his father. Sorry. I want a Shaw and Uncle Owen show, and it's just the two of them giving commentary on everything going on in Star Trek and Star Wars. Frontier Day also looks like a lot of fun, so I'm going to go ahead and add that to my Trek itinerary as well. And I had to get my hat out because NX-01 speech! I love that they put that in. I wish the speech had been longer. The synchronous fleet was really freaking me out, though. To me, the strength of Starfleet is the creativity of all its captains, because they're each unique, they have their own take. And if you look at, say, Captain Kirk and his strategies versus Picard or Janeway, Sisko, they're all different. And if you put the whole fleet just on automatic, well, who's calling the shots? One person. And I was sitting there kind of horrified right at the same time Picard started going, yeah, that looks like the Borg. I'm not okay with this. And I'm like, no, I'm not okay with it either. I am kind of impressed by the brilliance here of the Borg Changeling Alliance. I mean, everyone transports at some point. And to write in that layered Borg organic code, it was so clever. And it makes sense. That's how Jack was able to control people. They were like really low-level drones. I also wonder if Ro suspected something because she insisted on using the shuttle, not the transporter. What did she know? Barkley is never getting in a transporter again after this. Can you imagine? I kind of hope they put a cameo of him in because he's still around, right? They need to, after all this is resolved, show Barkley just in his office or something, and he's like, I knew it! I knew he should never transport! I also kind of liked that only people under 25 were affected because I watch, let's face it, a lot of young adult post-apocalyptic shows. I would say the majority of them propound something like, this horrendous virus affected the entire Earth except everyone under, I don't know, 16, 18. Pick your show of what the number is. Very rarely do you see a situation like this where, no, it's the older people who are safe. I forget who said the line, but there was something like, I've never been so glad to see so many wrinkles. At this point, though, I kind of started to lose it because I realized as soon as they said under 25, that meant Sydney would be affected. And I just started screaming at the screen. And I don't think I stopped until the end of the episode because there was so much going on. It started with, no, not Sydney, no. And then Alondra and Seven was slowly being affected somehow, although she seemed to be still in control. I was getting goosebumps at this point. I mean, the just utter chaos in the halls, a good chunk of the crew turning into Borg drones. It was amazing. And thankfully, I would be in the unaffected group. So I would have been running around with Picard and crew. That whole sequence was incredible and also terrifying. They even brought back the handheld camera, and I'm really liking this style in the show of it's very stable camera work most of the time, but when you get into these fight sequences, it's like someone has it on their shoulder, probably they do, and you're just running around with the crew experiencing what they're experiencing. Like when they ran into the turbo lift, we were running into the turbo lift and whirling around, and loved it. And then again, Shaw's background as a lower decks maintenance person saved the day. He is incredible. He and Worf are probably my favorite characters on this show. And this is where we really saw him shine as well. Like, yes, he's snarky, but when it comes down to it, he knows what to do. Like everyone else was just going. And Shaw was just, all right, we're going to go do this. We're going to do this. You go over there. You go over there. You get behind me. I laughed so hard at everyone's faces when Seven called Data a robot. The robot's right. Oh, Seven. I really hope we get a spin-off Captain Seven Titan show after this. But this is where Star Trek. We need to have a talk. Why did you kill off Shaw? I was throwing things at the screen at this point. He was doing an amazing job. He was coordinating their escape. Did you see him there? He was just like, okay, Picard, go. Riker, go. And he was just covering them as they got out into that maintenance shuttle. And when he got hit by that blast, I was just... And then Seven refusing to leave him alone, and she just went running right back to him because she didn't want him to die alone. And then Rafi, the minute she saw Seven was staying, was like, I'm staying too. I'm not leaving you. I'm sorry. You're lucky you didn't see the reaction to this. I was a mess. And then that moment at the end where he called her Captain Seven, basically. And he not only used her real name, her Borg name, but he gave her the ship. And not just because she was the only one there, you really felt that he believed in her and knew she would get them out of it and she would be an amazing captain. After that scene, though, they knew a lot of us were very upset, and they gave us something incredible. How many of you screamed with joy when the Enterprise D showed up on screen? The minute they got to the Fleet Museum, I was like, are they gonna do what I think they're gonna do? Geordie's garage restoration project coming in super handy here. There was so much squealing going on during these scenes. I was just the entire time just like the moment when like Data touches his chair or when they were showing the plaque on the wall, the carpets. Nostalgia was off the charts. It brought me right back to being a tiny little child, watching the first episode of TNG, barely understanding what was going on. I'd never really seen Star Trek before. This also reminded me of Battlestar Galactica Reimagined, where we have a ship that was in a museum, basically, and then the Cylons attacked, and all the other fleet went down because they were networked. But Battlestar Galactica was not. It had gift shops and stuff like that. And Adama was able to first get away safely and second fight the Cylons because he had a museum piece that was not networked. I can't be the only person who sees this parallel, right? I mean, I don't care. It's a fantastic story, especially today when we have so much networked stuff and AI is coming into prominence. I can really see this happening where suddenly those old antique machines might save us if things go wrong. And then Picard is just a captain again. I guess computer never got the memo. Speaking of computer, hearing her voice like that, when they all kind of sat down or took their positions, and Picard was like, I don't know if I can ask you to go with me, blah, blah, blah. And Riker just went, wherever you go, we go. I was bawling at this point, just sobbing. Not like I was sad, although I was about Shaw, but just out of pure joy. And then they hit us with the music, and I was just sobbing. This is what I wanted from Picard right from episode 1. And while it was an entertaining show, they finally nailed it. This is exactly what we wanted. Make it so engage. Next week cannot get here fast enough, and also we need more episodes, not just one. Can we have an entire episode that is just lingering shots of the Enterprise D? Can that be a thing? We don't need it to have a story. Just an hour of shots of the set you created, just close-ups. Put some music in the background,